Hello, everybody, and welcome to lesson 12 of class. I was about to say 11 there, but we already did that one. So that's if war is logical, or is war logical? This one is it logical to believe in God or gods? Now, the reason why I state this is because, well, in different spiritual teachings, remember this is class stating creativity, logic, art, science, and spirituality, and how it all comes together. You have to remember there's other branches of spirituality. If you were to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist and ask them about spirituality, they might say something like, oh, I'm not too bright, or I'm not too intelligent, or intelligent enough to understand spirituality, or I'm not spiritual enough to understand spirituality and religion and things like that. Religion and spirituality, one or two separate things, but let's get something straight in the medical community. Autophagy is something that has been dictated that is beneficial to the human body for quite some time now, and that's been around for thousands of years according to spiritual teachings known as fasting, hence the movements of intermittent fasting and everything else that goes along with it, because it's how the body and the cells reprogram themselves after a lot of junk has built up over time. Now, the thing about gods, and that's plural, is that in the book there's other words that are used. So when they say the Elohim and things like that, it's normally in a plural format, meaning there's more than one. So is it logical that there's only one thing to believe in, or that there are many things to believe in? And you have to identify what is God to you, or gods to you. It could be the universe, it could be creation, it could be the ether, so on and so forth. Some people might say, does pink matter, or does gray matter, and all these other things. But what does that mean? So once you identify those things, then you could go ahead and take it a step further. Now, this has been said by Andrew Bustamante, and I'm taking this from him as well as other people, but everybody has an off button, and the belief in something greater has the potential to stop people from pushing that off button, which is why the premise of God or gods normally exists, because people normally need somebody to speak to talk to get that talk therapy out, whether it's, talking to yourself, saying positive affirmations, praying, so on and so forth. These are all things that can be done to not only benefit you as an individual, to help you grow personally, but to get things off your chest because you finally got to say it out loud and it's no longer resting in the back of your mind. Now, if God were real, then what is fake? The ideology of God can always be used as a weapon, as it has been used for several years to control people. The thing is, what is ideology? Think Santa or Christmas, right? Everybody will use a certain type of ideology for control. Oh, if you don't behave, Santa's going to make a list. He's checking it twice, so on and so forth. Oh, if you don't behave, I'm going to tell the boogeyman, so on and so forth. Oh, if you don't do this, or God's watching, etc. And these are all fear tactics in order to not discredit an action, but to take away from the incentive of carrying out an action because of what might come afterwards. Now, if you don't have those beliefs, then the use of those things will be minimal, or if you have a better understanding of those things will be minimalized because of the understanding in which you have. Now, when it comes to ideology, well, what is ideology? Andrew Bustamante talks about ideology and things like that. But what is it? Well, it's an idea. It's a form of beliefs that you use to carry out your everyday life, to stay in a systemic system, or to have a more structured system so that you know the rules, the parameters, the boundaries, so on and so forth, in which you're able to cross, or the lines that you're able to cross and get away with when you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, so that morally and ethically it's okay with you and whatever you believe in. Now, ideologies can be used for good or bad. Think Batman and the Book of Eli, right? The ideology that good always wins in Batman is something that is beneficial to somebody who wants to be a hero, somebody who wants to save the day, rescue a damsel in distress, be a billionaire and, be a superhero at night, whatever, fighting crime. This is the same ideology that feeds into those that become military personnel, firefighters, as well as police officers all around the world. And, every one of them can relate to these things because they will start to quote movies, or they'll make quotes from movies about whatever situation that they're in. And it's a form of communication. If you don't understand that, go back to other videos when I talk about communication and understand what an entendre is, analogies and metaphors are, and how people in different industries actually communicate with one another using their own language and terminology. Now, in the book of Eli, if you remember that story or that movie with Denzel Washington, he had the Bible with him and everybody wanted to get their hands on it. The reason they wanted to get their hands on it was because of the power that it had over people when it came to mind control. Now, what does this mean? Because somebody can say, oh, God told me this, that, and the third, or I don't know who I'm speaking to, but it's someone here. Now, who is that someone? Now, if you're quoting the Bible, I can say, who told you that, right? Just like Adam and Eve when they were in the garden, who told you you were naked? Who told you this, right? Because it came from somewhere. You didn't just pull it out of the ether. Sometimes you can, but with certain types of knowledge, such as secretive knowledge, somebody had to tell you something, or you were already exposed to it from the get-go and you were just playing along because they said lights, camera, action, and we have a player now, right? Not everybody can live life and walk through life doing their own thing. Some live life like an NPC being controlled by other things in the universe and atmosphere, whether that's to keep them safe or to steer them in another direction. Now, what do I mean by mind control? It's just the influence of other people's actions, whether or not they are going to take an action on something or not. So, you can do things like hypnosis, structured speech. You can do priming techniques. You can do subliminal messaging. You can do hypnosis with subtle touches as well as keywords. And over time, moving the brain into a certain state, you can go ahead and put someone in a particular mindset that you can say a keyword, spy, or whatever the case may be, and then they will go ahead and go into that mindset or go and reveal whatever it is they were trained to reveal during that time of neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis. Now, this does feed into what people know as the MK Ultra thing, but that's completely different because it was also utilized in tandem with drug abuse or drugs in general in order to manipulate and control the mind as well. So how is this done? If you've never seen somebody by the name of Darren Brown, a phenomenal mentalist, someone I looked up to for years, after I got into close-up magic, I worked with a crew named Slight Club. Scott Robinson was the founder and the creator of the whole group. And one of the first rules is you don't talk about Slight Club, but I guess the cat's out of the bag now. But anyways, after I got into it, I was really into close-up magic, but I fell into mentalism. Now, if you ever seen the TV show The Mentalist or things like that, you'll notice that he helps out with the FBI. He helps out with other things in police forces and stuff like that, because it's a psychological understanding of human behavior and ways to feed on or take advantage of what's known as cognitive biases or false fallacies, right? How do you trick the brain into doing what it is that you want it to do with utilizing its fail-safe mechanisms that have already been installed for thousands of years? And then, of course, with some added tactics of subtle hypnosis or psychological subtleties that were made famous by Banachek. So if you were to look at Darren Brown's Messiah episode, where he takes somebody and he literally turns them into a prophet or whatever, or a phenomenal preacher, and they do all these tactics, you can see the tricks and the tools of the trade, and you'll be able to weave through the BS and see what's real and what's not. Now, if you're talking about mind control, another episode you can look at is The Manchurian Candidate, when he talks about the JFK assassination, and they talk about hypnosis and things like that in order to not only get away with it, but have the person not remember the actions in which they took when they carried out the attempt. And it's a phenomenal episode because it's a series of events or a sequence of events or sequencing that occurs when this person is put under hypnosis. They see like a blue polka dotted dress, they hear a thing, and it's a chain of events that set off the triggers, kind of like a combination lock. So you can't just do one thing, it has to be a chain of events in a certain order that unlock everything. And then that's when the person wakes up, goes into the altered state, carries out the performance, and then goes back under, not remembering a thing. And it's been proven highly successful over the years, and it's been done and replicated not only just over the years by the government, but by magicians in the world, looking at, well, Darren Brown as a prime example from the UK. Now, knowing and hearing about all the advice stated earlier, what are your thoughts? I mean, is it logical to believe in God or gods? I mean, if you think someone is influencing you to believe in something that you cannot see, you have to understand that's just like a psychologist or psychiatrist trying to diagnose the invisible. It's one of those things where does it come from? How do you figure it out? You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't really manifest a tangible thing, so on and so forth. So how can you solve for X or Y? So on and so forth, as they say. Now, when it comes to other things, let's ask a question. What if I told you that God in the US is actually the government, right? And what I mean by that is, what if the government or AI and technology all work together to create deep fakes, to create other things, to go ahead and steer you clear or to steer clear of other things because it's trying to always get you out of trouble. But if you cross the line because you can't pick up on the subtle clues, then you get in trouble. And then, of course, you need an attorney, and then you need a lawyer, and then you go to court and all this other stuff. But if you would have paid attention to the signs earlier, then you would have gotten out of danger's way. And the reason why I state this is because not every government agency is bad. I mean, yes, there are people in the army, there are people in the military, there are people in CIA, DIA, NSA, NASA, and about a bunch of other three-letter agencies, along with four-letter agencies that people don't even talk about. And they all work in tandem now after 9/11 due to the fact that they have to share information and get their word out, as well as help those that can't always help themselves. So if that was the case, would you still believe in it? Right? So throughout my time in North Carolina, it has been revealed that just like in the book of Eli, the premise or the idea of God has been used and fueled the mental health space and movement out here. What do I mean? Well, I went to a doctor and I told him that I believe in God. Literally, the person said, I don't give a F what God you believe in, so on and so forth. They put me to sleep, woke me up, and then tried to diagnose me with something because I guess believing in something greater that's invisible is something that is not tangible to them or something that they can comprehend. So therefore, by which they're able to then assign some type of diagnosis to say that you're crazy or whatever because you believe in something that no one can see. But then again, people believe in Wi-Fi, wireless electricity, Bluetooth, and all these other technologies, and you can't even see the wires. But then again, I'm the crazy one, right? I mean, let's think about it. If E equals mc squared and E equals energy, and energy equals mass times light squared on itself, and we're all made of light, right? It would be c squared because we are a mass of everything that matters, since mass is literally how much matter something holds. So do you not understand that you are filled up with everything that matters and you are a mass of light that is able to shine out upon the world? I mean, think about it. When you release your energy, you allow other people to release theirs. This is similarly to Brene Brown's vulnerability concept. When you become vulnerable and reveal some stuff from yourself, then it allows others to go ahead and shine and reveal their vulnerabilities and feel powerful and just as powerful as you do, because it creates not only a safe space, but they're able to trust you more because you revealed something that was, well, sensitive to them. Now, I'm almost done with the notes here before I start going off the cuff, but this is a form of mass psychological operations. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, if you're able to control a group of people and get them to all believe in the same thing, then whatever you say, similarly to the military, you have the ideology that we got to protect America, this, that, and the third, and you're just going to do as you're told, and yes, sir, no, sir, and blah, 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 blah. I lived that experience during my time in the Marines, and I got to live other experiences while I was in the Marines as well, working with other people outside of just my profession and getting to experience talking to people by their first name, saying other things, using terminologies, cool language, and speaking right in plain sight when nobody understands what the hell it is you're saying and everybody gets offended. And the reason they get offended is because they're pretty much telling on themselves, because psychologically, the brain is triggered to pick up on negative things versus positive things. So even if I were to say something positive, the person would normally try to think of a negative thing. I'll give you an example. I went to a bar and I ordered Jack Daniels. Now, back in the day, I would order Jack Daniels when I was meeting with somebody and I had to say something in private that was legal, right? So Jack Daniels, I would take J and D, or Juris Doctorate, and I'm looking for an attorney. So I would order Jack Daniels or chilled, so on and so forth, with a Coke back. E equals MC squared, so Coca-Cola, C squared, etc., right? liquid courage, etc., blah, blah, blah. The spirits, they give you energy, so E equals MC squared. Let me get a Jack Daniels chilled with a Coke back. I'm searching for an attorney or a lawyer in the room that I could speak to clandestinely or secretively because something's going on. Now, my profession when I was in the military, although I was an ammo tech, I also taught and helped out with classes that taught people how to smuggle bombs and explosives across state lines and ammunitions and all that other fun stuff. I got to work with EOD, highway patrol, police departments, and things like that, ATF. And I needed to, well, work under the radar at times. So I went to this bar, ordered Jack Daniels, and this guy looks at me. He goes, "What the hell did you just say?" I said, "Jack Daniels, Juris Doctorate," which told me he got upset for no damn reason, didn't know what I was talking about, and he just told on himself again because he was being nosy, looking for the negative or trying to get me on something that didn't even exist because he was not in the realm of where I was at. So therefore, because of the, as they say in Ocean's 12, the loss in translation, he was lost in the sauce, as we say, and he just gave himself up as being, well, a nosy individual that was trying to figure out what the hell it was that I was doing, saying, etc., and why I was there. Comical enough, but it works in different environments, especially if you establish with a team what it is you're going to say, what it is you're going to order, the sequence or the series of events and how it's going to go down so that you can speak to people directly or indirectly, right? Now, with everything discussed, what are your thoughts now? Because remember, you can read the tea leaves, but unless somebody tells you what the tea leaves mean, unless you know yourself, you're not going to understand what is going on. So, what is it that you believe now? Now, I'm not trying to have you push anything away. I'm trying to test your boundaries as far as what you believe in, why you believe in it. Is it just hearsay because it sounds good and it makes you feel good, so on and so forth? Or do you actually do your research, and do you actually know your research when you can go ahead and then speak up on it so that you can say, not only do I believe in this, but let me tell you about so and so, or let me tell you about why psychology and how come doctors should understand spirituality more, since medicine comes from there, since it's actually a library of books that have been consolidated into a simple travel library book that you can take with you and you can quote things, so on and so forth. For instance, in psychology, you have bipolar disorder, Tourette's, all these other things, so on and so forth. In the Bible, you have the spirit of Jezebel and everything like that. These are entendres and codes for, well, the type of mental disorder that is going on, because people relate to other people more so and they're more interested in people than things and objects. It's easier to diagnose somebody as a person, the spirit of Jezebel, or whatever the case may be, and instead of using terminology such as, oh, this is a bipolar, multiple personality disorder, this person has this person has schizophrenia, whatever the case may be. No, this person has been possessed by legion, something that has many demons, otherwise known as multiple personality disorder. So if you don't understand the psychological or the terminology and how it links together, please stay tuned for the rest of the lessons that are coming through when it comes to now moving into logic from creativity. Because a lot of people can become creative, but without logic to explain it, you won't understand the art or the science that goes into it, and you'll be lost in the sauce by the time you get to spirituality and somebody says, you are have a lot of demons in you, so on and so forth, and you have no idea what they're saying, right? Now, this is terminology used from Christianity, but they also have other things in the Mahabharati and things like that, where they have, Brahma, Vishnu, and everything like that. Like, oh, you need to find balance. Maybe you should go pray to Vishnu, right? Or maybe, you're a little chaotic, so on and so forth. Maybe you need to go to this person. Or I understand you want to be fertile. Maybe you should go speak to Dionysus. Because if you're Greek, then you believe in other gods, and it's plural. So it really just comes down to not only your upbringing and culture, but your understanding of what it is that you're trying to get out of life and what you're trying to reach for. Now, do you think you can be controlled through your ideologies, or is it just a myth? Now, that's the last one that I have here, but do you think that you can be controlled through your ideologies, or is it just a myth? Well, if it is a myth, then, well, what are you scared of? If it's an ideology, then change your mind. And if, as the man says, if you want something to change, change it. If you want a new result, change what you're doing, and then you'll get a new result because it'll change the result, right? If you're thirsty, drink water. Excuse me. You know, if you have a question, go to the person and ask a question. Don't try to be sneaky and try to figure out what they're doing behind the scenes. Once you realize that they're not a threat, go ahead and actually speak to them. Don't be scared, as the kids say, or scared these days, so on and so forth. Give a little riz. Show them that you actually hear them, that you understand them, so on and so forth. Remember, there are three things people normally want in communication, and that is to be felt, heard, and understood. And if you don't understand those things, you're not going to understand a lot of things in communication because yeah, you can feel somebody, you can hear somebody, but if you don't understand what it is that they're saying, you're not going to understand what it is that they're saying. And I would say something like this: do you see what I'm saying? Because if you can't see what I'm saying, then you don't understand where that symbol that I just put up, where I made a circle around my eye, comes from. If you were to Google that, that comes from a lot of people in the art world, or thespians, so on and so forth. And if you don't know what a thespian is, so on and so forth, you should probably study history or drama, and then you'll understand what the culture is like. Now, if you're going into other things like the occult, meaning what is unknown, then it might be tied to other things. Some people might use this as okay, or getting you to look somewhere. Be like, oh, I have some dirt on my shirt, made you look, and now I get to punch you. But punch buggy, no punchbacks, right? So think about that before you engage in a conversation in which you might get lost in the sauce because nobody understands what you're saying and you're trying to communicate with people that lack understanding. They're just choosing to listen to respond instead of listening to understand, which is taught by Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, if this video has been helpful to you, go ahead and smash that like button, and don't forget to follow me for not only more videos like this, but for oncoming lessons, because we're going to be moving into art and spirituality and science and all those things. Because remember, when you go to school, in the beginning, you learn about creativity. Then when you go to middle school, high school, you learn to put that together with logic, and then you graduate college with a bachelor's in the arts or sciences. And then after you have a family, maybe, or when something important comes into your life, you start figuring out, should you or should you not believe in things like spirituality? Is there something greater? Where does the energy go that's in your body once it leaves and you move on? So these are all things that I would love to go ahead and continue to explain to you and others. So don't forget to share this video with people so that they too can go ahead and benefit from all the teachings, especially things about perception and perspective. We're seeing in between, as well as all the other things when it came to moving into logic away from creativity, so that they can see the world in a different way and see it as beautiful as I do and as some of you do. So this has been lesson 12 of class. Is believing in God logical? And is believing in God's logical? I mean, think about it. God, God's, plural. There are more of us than them. They created these people like us. I mean, there's a lot of terminology that can be questioned there. But at the end of the day, it comes up to you. So until next time, my friends, take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Love you guys.